David Serland, a lead producer of Battlefield 6, recently answered some questions from the community about vehicles inside of the Battlefield 6 beta and how they felt like they were too weak, and they were wondering would they be stronger when the game releases on October the 10th. He said he and the dev team knew that the vehicles were weaker during the beta. He said it's not really a big issue for them, given they would rather have them weaker than vehicles dominating too much inside of that beta. He says it's a balancing issue and it's not specific to a special situation. However, we're actively working on it. Rather having too weak vehicles over too powerful to start. So he's wanting the vehicles to be weaker to begin with. That way they can buff them up instead of vice versa, having to nerf them a lot to make them, not as good. He says it's also tricky because players get better using them as time goes on as well. And I can kind of understand what he means by that. Of course, a beta was limited. We did have 2 weekends. We only got to play a certain amount of maps. But once we all get in, we're playing all the time. You're in your helicopters, you're in your tanks, you're in your jets. You're going to start to learn the maps, start to learn, what you can get away with, what your limitations are. And then, of course, everyone's going to improve. So you might not have been as good with a tank in the beta as you will be months after the game releases. But at the same time, I get what he means by it's kind of that balancing act, because you also don't want tank players or helicopter players being able to go to a certain objective and just absolutely destroy everyone there and then move on to the next one and really have no counter. Now, the one thing they did bring back in Battlefield 6, which we've had in previous titles, but not all of them, is the ability to hit the tank in the rear, in the back, of course, with an RPG or another vehicle, and it actually deals increased damage. Now, some people felt like the damage in the beta was a bit too much. It seemed like it was 50 or 60% of the damage of the tank was pretty much taken away as soon as you hit it with one RPG. That's going to be kind of a hard balancing act as well to fix. I'm not quite sure what you can do there, but also it takes a little bit more skill as, of course, an engineer to fire that rocket from the back of the tank instead of just shooting from the front or the side or above it. You actually have to kind of position yourself to get that maximum damage. But overall, I understand why some players are talking about they felt too weak, because you do have a lot of stuff to account for. You have other helicopters and tanks shooting at you from the other team. You also have 32 players where half of them or more could be running engineer, and you're getting shot from several different directions. But I think that's also kind of where he talks about getting better with these vehicles over time as well, because you're probably going to learn eventually, hey, this flag, I cannot go cap it in this tank or this helicopter because it's too kind of cluttered with buildings and cover, and there could be people there hiding with RPGs, AA rockets that are going to be able to take me out easily. So I have to kind of position myself in a different area to help out the teammates on the ground cap that flag instead of me being there right on top of it myself. So it's definitely going to be something I'm going to be interested to see when the game launches. If there's many changes to these vehicles, I think we might see some adjustments, but from what he said here, I don't think vehicles are going to be too overpowered once the game starts, or at least that's what it sounded like to me. And that's probably a good thing. I'm a big fan in any game of not really a lot of nerfs, and that comes kind of to everything inside of Battlefield or any shooter I play, or any game just for that matter. You don't want a lot of stuff to be nerfed and have to go back and buff this and nerf this and buff this. I would prefer everything kind of start off in a weaker state and we can buff everything up to be kind of equal, so you can enjoy using many different things no matter what it is. I don't really like the situation where you have a tank that's really strong or a helicopter that's really weak and you have to nerf the tank. Of course, buff this chopper, nerf these guns, buff these guns, and it feels like it's just back and forth through the whole life cycle of the game. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of games have kind of, or the point they've kind of gotten to over time. And I really hate that. I would rather see everything be really good, be on an equal playing field. Some things, of course, are going to be kind of skill-based. Some people are going to be better with some stuff than others. But overall, there's something for everybody to use that is, kind of equal. And I think that's kind of what he's going for here and kind of what he's mentioning when it comes to tank and helicopter balance. My biggest issue during the beta was the tanks and the choppers felt very clunky, and that's always been a problem in Battlefield titles. From game to game, vehicles and choppers handle differently. A lot of people love the Little Bird in Battlefield 4, and they didn't like the Little Bird or choppers in other games. The same could be said for tanks. I really enjoyed the way tanks handled in Battlefield 3 personally, but in some titles after that, I didn't really like the way the tanks handled. So it comes down to clunkiness to me as well, and how smooth they kind of feel and maneuver in game. I think that could be one issue as well, is why people felt like they were weak, because it did feel like some of their controls and things were very, very clunky. And if it's very clunky, you're kind of uncomfortable while using it. And then, of course, it's not going to feel as good. You're not going to be able to do what you're used to doing with a certain tank or vehicle just in general. So I think if the clunkiness was taken out, it might help out with some of this as well. Leave me a comment with your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the vehicles during the Battlefield 6 beta. Did you like kind of the state they were in? Do you think they needed to be nerfed? Do you think they needed to be buffed? Or do you think they needed to be left alone? Kind of, and let's see after the game comes out what we can change, after everyone gets hands-on and gets to play for, a couple weeks. Leave me a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.